Business Award. Our award winner this year is an incredible story. And it probably can be easily underthought, but they dared to do things differently. In the early 1980s, they realized, as a lot of you probably did too, that all of a sudden maybe 50% of your revenue was coming from the government because of deficiency payments. How is that a model that's going to be sustainable? Anybody that knows that something's going to change, and you're not running your own world that way. It's just not the way it's supposed to be. So these innovative gentlemen said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. How can we do that? Easier said than done, obviously. But let's come up with sustainable farm practices that we know that we're dependent on ourselves, not on the government. Part of that was that we're going to have to diversify. We're very heavily dependent on, even though we're the #1 nation, or Whitman County is the #1 county for producing that wonderful soft white wheat, it's exported, we don't control the buyers, there's a lot of vulnerability there. Maybe we can produce more than wheat. Well, nobody's ever done that. Well, that's when the big change happens. But it takes courage, and it takes a lot of perseverance. So the journey began in 1995 for these gentlemen. Part of the story was to utilize no-till farming. Back then, you can remember how skeptical everybody was about that, and there were a lot of problems with it, frankly. Weed control beyond. So, but there's also a lot of good things about no-till farming, and it had to be developed. But they took it way beyond that, because as changing your farming practices isn't easy, but to take that and develop it into building a brand for an end product is a whole other issue, because then they started thinking about doing things different. Probably our biggest vulnerability in agriculture is we've always been price takers. I watched my calves leave the ranch this fall, and I said, I don't even know what price I'm going to get. How crazy is that? We've got to take control of that. Well, that's what these gentlemen decided to do with their wheat. So they built a brand, and how can we do that? How can we add value to that simple white wheat that normally goes into a barge and across the ocean? Well, they instituted with the no-till prime, they built a brand, they started a story, and they wanted to be a price setter, not a price taker. The story with the no-till side, 15% in the Riordan area in 2002. Those were the other guys doing that no-till thing, if you remember right. It's not that long ago. This past year, 85% of the farms out there are no-till. It's come a long ways. It hasn't been easy. A lot of people paid the price for others being able to do that now. 7 farmers participating in 2002, 42 farmers participating now with a waiting list. It's good stuff. But again, the perseverance, I'm sure there were tough times and probably big questions, maybe even from the wives, and saying, are you sure you're doing this right? They also challenged the thought of, can we grow anything besides soft white wheat in eastern Washington? Well, turns out, I didn't think you could, but it turns out I guess you can. You can grow hard whites or hard reds, and you can make bread instead of noodles over in the Asian countries. That's a powerful thing. Shepherd's Grain brand, from wheat growers to food producers. Remember, ultimately, that's what the agriculture industry is about. We produce food, and that's consumed by every human on earth. That's a powerful market, but easier said than done. It's easier to let somebody else do that, but you become a price taker instead of a price maker. So we are thrilled this year, and I can let Fred tell the rest of the story, but to recognize and frankly be amazed at what's happened with Shepherd's Grain over the last 10 years or more, 20 years actually, do the math. Yeah, something like that. Please help me congratulate Fred Fleming and Carl Kupers at Shepherd's Grain.
So I don't drop it. It is a true honor for the Shepherd's Grain family to accept this award. You pretty much have told our story very well, because I know we have to keep it at a Reader's Digest version, a little short here. My wife warned me of that. However, I would really like to thank all the number of people. This award really represents the whole Inland Empire and of our farming region and who we are. It was very well said that we are price takers and not price setters. And that was really something that Carl and I tried to do at the beginning, was to set this program up so that we could do that. With saying that, we would like to thank the number of different people, and I'm going down a list of people that helped us get here today, but mostly it all sort of took place over about a 2-year period, the people that I'm going to mention. It really was very unique to have people that would help us, because we did need a lot of help. Even though we had this idea, it took the Washington State University of Pullman was instrumental in helping us get here today. And the people that I'd really like to thank are Dr. Doug Ingle, Greg Morris, Brady Carter of the Western Wheat Quality Lab. They helped determine the quality of wheat. We determined those varieties along with Dr. Kim Kidwell, who was a producer or the breeder of Terra, who then became one of the cornerstones of our company. After going there and developing that, we also stopped in at the economic department and had Herb Hinman, Dr. Hinman, help us create a Hinman model to identify the cost of production, rate of return. Reed Smith, former student, went there and approached him, and Herb said, hey, I am too busy, I don't have the time to do this. And Reed then explained to him what we wanted to accomplish. He dropped everything and worked on this project. And today that is one of the things that we can set our price with the customers we work with. And then going to the next one is the Wheat Marketing Center down in Portland with David Shelton. He helped us mill the first varieties of wheat, and Grand Central Bakery, Mike Moran, baked them. He looked at the analysis, said, you know, this stuff's too bucky, this isn't going to work. And with that statement, he said, you've gotten this far, let's bake with it. After baking with it, he said all he had learned in baking he's going to have to throw out, because how the dough behaved in the bowls was unique. And so there was sort of our jump start. Now the next puzzle of this thing, it sort of reminds me of two kids going after a treasure hunt. How do we get to this point, to this point, to this point? And different people out in the industry gave us clues. So Carl and I would run over here, and then another set of clues, and we'd run over here. It was sort of like a big kid in a playground, Carl and I were for a while. And it was just truly a lot of fun. But the real cornerstone of why I'm here today is due to Bob French from ADM and Sean Lindhorst of ADM. They were the ones that took these two crazy farmers, brought them in, we told them our idea, and they said, yeah, let's work with you guys. But the thing that I get a kick out of, I'm over there like a kid saying, gee, ADM's milling our wheat. We went to the Wheat Marketing Center for a wheat quality lab in Portland as a panel, and someone out there says, where do you get your wheat milled? Well, I get it milled at ADM. And 2 days later, I got a phone call. Bob French pulled Carl and I into the principal's office, said, boys, you don't do this. Corporate was sitting in the audience. They called up and said, what in the heck are you doing working with farmers? We don't work with farmers. What are you doing? I don't know what he did. He worked his magic. He just said, from this point forward, Fred, you just have to say, we're working with a mill in Spokane. So I got put in ADM timeout for a period of time. It wasn't long when ADM movie Rats in the Grain came out, and they then decided to highlight that they were working with farmers. They have a picture of their crew with a pallet of shepherd's grain flour sitting in front of them and highlighting how ADM works with farmers. And that was ran in the Portland market, Seattle market, and Washington, D.C., so that ADM could show how they work with people. And that is a true paradigm shift and I didn't realize it until afterwards that what we have accomplished. With that, there was another group that helped us dramatically, and that was the Spokane Conservation District. Vicki Carter, Rich Big, and Jim Armstrong that I see here today. Jim Armstrong at the beginning was sort of the voice of Shepherd Grain, helped us make it a promotional video, and a lot of this was all done on their dime or help because they wanted to see us become successful. And again, I can't thank Jim enough for helping us, because he was sort of the voice of Shepherd's Grain at the beginning. I had one of my friends look at the video that we made, and he asked, "Are you selling flour or equipment?" Because as farmers, we always want to highlight the tractor going across the field and all that. So that was a little bit of a wake-up call that we are now having to market our products to the consumer. Then again, the other people I'd like to thank that helped allowed us was our local co-ops, because they had to put up with us, because we are something that they normally do not deal with, because they have to deal with large commodities. Now it's identity preserved. They have to store it and handle it different. So initially, I think they were hoping we would go away, but we are not. And so the elevators, H&H Trucking, all these people are what has allowed Carl and I to be here. But more than that, I can't understate enough that our good friend Bob French, without him, we could not have even made this happen today. And he's left us, unfortunately, in 2014, and I think the industry as a whole is still missing Bob. I'd like to end with a little story about Farmer Yates. Farmer Yates, I got this from my pastor at Life Center, but Farmer Yates was this farmer back in Texas. He, like all of us back in the 60s, 70s, was always working, always coming home to the wife, said, you know, next year it's going to be a better year. We just got to hang in here. Our ship's coming in. I can still remember my father-in-law telling my mother-in-law, well, sort of the same story, and I can still remember Grandma June looking out the window saying, you know, there's that stagger that just went by, there's my kitchen, and someday maybe I'll get the kitchen that I've been looking for. That's agriculture. Well, Farmer Yates, he's been doing that, and over all those many years, he did not realize that he was sitting on the largest wealth that he could imagine underneath his feet, because they struck oil on his land. So all this time, he was a wealthy man, but didn't know it. We in agriculture are wealthy because we are the stewards, the gatekeepers of the land, and we also produce the food for the world. And we have to recognize that we are food producers, and we take this story, you compass it with how you're protecting the environment, how you're socially just, all these buzzwords that I had to learn to speak because I was over on the west side, and you speak a different, I speak Farmernese, I speak the language of farmers. You have to speak the language of the consumer so that they can embrace you and become an ambassador of Sacred Family Farm. So I just want to let you realize that we are working in a very wealthy world as we farm and the crops that we produce. You just have to take that story to the marketplace. With that, I would really like to thank the Chamber once again for this honor. I know that the Shepherd's Grain family, the people that I have mentioned, recognize that if it wasn't for all of us to do this, we would not be able to get this award. So thank you, Jay.